lot of people have the idea that you run it lean, it'll burn hot and it'll clean stuff up, but if there is no temperature in the area where the fuel comes in, it doesn't vaporize and therefore it doesn't burn properly. So we're gonna pull it apart, take a look inside and see what the results are. But I'm fairly certain by the stuff coming out of the exhaust, we're gonna find a mess. Having some issues with my diesel heater. Just wondering if the exhaust is supposed to be glowing red like that. Oh, that's flames. I'm glad it was out here when that happened, because that could have been very bad. Wonderful. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Lowered Expectations. Thanks for lowering your expectations and hanging out with me here. I do appreciate it. This is truly going to be a Lowered Expectations video because I've arbitrarily decided that I have to smash through 2 weeks of video footage so that we can catch up to present day and I can show you guys my new burn chamber design. Why do we need to do that? I don't know. I've just decided that we do. I realize that a bunch of people probably won't make it all the way to the end of this video, so I'm going to try to lure you into watching the next one just in case. For those of you who watch all the way to the end of this video, you will see the start of how I decided that I was going to build my own burn chamber head, so you might want to stick around for that. The next video in this series is basically going to be some experimentation using air pressure into the heater and how I came about deciding that I was going to build my own burn chamber head. A big thanks to Lance for pointing me in that direction. Now for the safety warning. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of silly things in this video that didn't work. Quite clearly, you shouldn't do these things. Let's get into it. What I did is I took a piece of stainless steel brake line, or stainless steel brake cable for a bicycle. I just took a piece of it and I coiled it up inside of the burn area. Anyway, here is the brake cable here. It doesn't look like it actually got very hot. Yeah, not looking like it got very hot in there. So maybe what I'll do with it this time, I'll actually just throw this stuff inside this part of the chamber just to see what happens. Because why not? In a pursuit to vaporize the fuel as it comes into the burn area here, I am going to try using some springs. Well, that didn't work. It made a huge amount of carbon in a small amount of time. There was a bunch of carbon buildup on this, and there is still a bunch of carbon inside here. Even though most of the time it was running on pure diesel. I'm going to put the same springs back in, but this is how I'm putting them in. Alright, it was burning pretty dirty considering how long it burnt for. There is a bunch of stuff in there. That's what it looks like after very little run time. The springs got a little bit hot, but they don't seem to have aided in the burn too much, and they didn't put a lot of heat back into the chamber itself. So I'm trying a fiberglass method again. The last time I used a fiberglass cloth. This time I'm using what they call chop strand mat. This stuff is about 2 millimeters thick. It is very absorbent. My thinking is here that the chop strand mat, the fiberglass, will be able to absorb a lot of the fuel, and hopefully it will actually spread out in a ring around the outside surface, similar to what the original mesh did. I don't know that this will do anything, but I've decided to put a little bit of fiberglass inside of the tube as well. If nothing else, I'm just doing this for curiosity. So I'm assuming it will probably melt. It is glass. Okay, so the stuff burning off, I think is what they call sizing. It's actually basically what they use to hold the fiberglass together. So in the direct flame, in that temperature, it is melting into a blob of glass. Surprise, surprise, it is fiberglass. I don't think where it is going to get anywhere near these temperatures. But that is pretty cool. I've never done this before. Why would I? Why would anybody do this? I'm sure the camera can't pick up on this, but it is, oh, it's still very hot. It is clear like glass. It is glass. Yep, it becomes brittle and just snaps. Cool. It is a little bit later. As you guys can hear, the Mr. Heater is running, and I have the heater back apart. I have some melted fiberglass here. This is the piece that was in the chamber, and it has melted. There's a big chunk of glass that was sitting in the heat exchanger. Yeah, that's just broken glass now. This is the split burn chamber, and this is the fiberglass that I jammed in there. As you guys can see, it's a little bit blackened, but not too much. It is very much diesel soaked. It just wasn't getting hot enough. I'm gonna actually hit this with a torch now so you guys can see what will happen, so I can see what will happen. I'm pretty sure it's gonna burst into flames pretty quick. Yeah, there was a lot of diesel on it. I've been playing around with some copper wire, and this is what I've come up with. It's not pretty, but I'm hoping that it will work. I've got a coil, or a couple of coils of copper wire sitting down inside of the chamber where the heat is generated. And then these coils, which sit inside of the vaporizing area or the main burn area. So they're gonna sit in there. We do have some melted copper. I am going to continue on with this idea, trying to make it work. I'm just gonna go about it in a slightly different way. So it's getting plenty hot inside of the chamber where the flame comes out. I'm just not able to keep any of that heat in this area, and that's where I need it. Bicycle spokes. That's right, this time inside of the chamber I have some BMX bicycle spokes. I think they're made out of stainless steel, but I'm not sure. I had some extras kicking around. I have removed the little fins that cause squirrel to the air, and I've drilled some holes in the back underneath where the baffle goes. Not sure, yeah, you guys can see those spokes. Anyway, I have them going out through the chamber, and then there are 8 holes in here, but I only have 7 spokes, so I've got 7 spokes going in through there. I've put the fiberglass back in, and I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, these stainless steel spokes, if that indeed is what they are, will heat up in here, carry some of that heat back into the fiberglass, and hopefully we will I'm getting sick of saying this. Let's just try it. I've been messing around with the heater for a couple of hours now. I actually don't even know what time it is or what time I started. Oh, it's 7 o'clock. All right, I've been messing around with the heater for quite a while now, trying to find the right ratio, and it looks like at 5,000 RPM, 5.3 Hertz is the place where it wants to be. Still not terribly happy, only 120 Celsius on the chamber. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I tried cranking it up, tried cranking it down. It will shoot all sorts of really impressive flames out the exhaust if I crank it up to like 6 or 7 hertz. And if I turn it down to like 3.2, then it will just completely shut off. Anyway, what it's doing now is going through the cool down cycle because it has indeed shut off. I've got the heater apart and it's starting to build up some junk in the bottom of it. Very likely that is the reason why it started to heat up. It went up to 129, not that that is good, but it made it up to 129. Previously it had been 119 or something like that. So I was able to use my hydraulic press to smush this scouring pad into this. It's quite thin and it looks like it could work as the mesh that I need inside of my chamber. So I'm going to take a fresh one of these, actually maybe 3 of these, and then squish them with the press to try to get what I need, a mesh. I got it cut out. I did a little bit more smushing. I don't know that it's any more consolidated, but we're going to use it how it is. In some places it cuts really easy, and then in other places it's a real pain in the butt. Okay, I'll stick the Allen key through the glow plug area so I can see where it is. You guys know the drill. I'm going to try to get this back together now, and I'll let you guys know how it works. If anything exciting happens along the way, I'll bring you along. I don't even know what to say anymore. I've got the heater up on the shelf testing it. I've just put it together with some bicycle brake cable looped in through the holes in the burn tube. I'll have to take it apart and show you guys at some point. I'm sure it'll fail here pretty quickly, but I also have the mesh stuff that I made on the press. I took out the large piece and I just used a small piece across the bottom. So I used a little piece of the scouring pad along the bottom where the diesel runs in. And then on top of that, I had some brake cable that went through the holes, and the idea was that the heat would hit it on this side and it would carry the heat back through. I can tell by looking at it, the color of it, that did not work at all. We can see the part that actually got hot, it is discolored, and when I bend it, it stays bent. Where the stuff that wasn't hot, it is still springy, springs back. After I shut off the camera, I decided that the next modification I would do is actually building my own burn tube. I had thought of this a while back, and I think I actually recorded a clip of it. But I was talking to Hobby Channel Germany today in his comments section and watched one of his recent videos. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. The guy has been living in his car for like 5.5 months and still manages to make videos and work on his heater. So that's extremely impressive. The idea behind this is that I'm hoping that by drilling holes in the top and by making it longer, I can force some of the hot exhausting air to pass over the flange or close to the flange, which will cause it to get hotter and keep more heat in this area in the vaporization area. Also, what I've done is actually enlarge the area. You can see the shelf is quite a bit further in. I've got some fiberglass stuff and I'm going to jam that inside of here. Is this a good idea? Who knows? Am I gonna do it anyway? You betcha. Okay, wow, that took a long time to bleed through. What I didn't show you guys is after I turned off the camera, I put the heater together and I decided to retry my dual heating or dual preheating line. So the fuel actually gets heated going from the center of the heater all the way to the front and then back again. I don't see a bunch of smoke. It's starting on waste motor oil and there's no smoke. Oh, it stopped pumping. I think I got a bad glow plug again. EO3. So, I'm gonna have to take it apart and see what's going on. I've got the two wires soldered on for the glow plug. This one here, and then there's the one on the yellow wire, which is very hard to see, but it's actually making contact with the other wire and shorting out. Let's hope it works this time. Oh, I didn't push the power button. Error 9. Sensor failure, so I didn't plug something in. Let's see what I forgot to do. Alright, the motor's plugged in. Oh, I think the heat sensor is not. There we go. Power it on. Try to get the cover back on and the fuel line hooked up before the fuel starts pumping. Okay, there we go. Safe and sound. Wow, what an awful bunch of troubles we've had this time. What is going on? Oh, that's light. I thought I grew a white beard. I tried to get the heater to work right and it just wouldn't. No matter what I did, when I introduced the oil, it wouldn't work properly. This is what happened to my fuel line when I use two metal lines to heat it. So normally I use one line and just run that one line about 6 or 8 inches through the heat exchanger. This is an additional line that I added on, so the fuel goes in through the top of the heater, through this, and then loops around and goes into the other heater, or the other fuel preheater. And that is what happened. You can see it is completely liquefied around that part of the fuel line. That is crazy. I am excited to see what's in here. Oh. Okay, so it was getting hot. Oh, wow. Yeah, it got hot down there, that's for sure. So it didn't get hot where I needed it to get hot, but it got quite hot everywhere else. You can see it was oxidizing quite a bit on the outside there. Before I pull it apart, I'll give you guys a look inside to see what kind of carbon there is in there. I think the white carbon at the end of the tube here, closest to the camera, is actually from the paint. And the black stuff there is either from diesel or the waste oil. Let's see what the fiberglass is. Completely soaked. Oh, I forgot about the stainless steel ring. We'll pull that out. Oh. Fiberglass looks like it got hot around the exit of the chamber. I've built another very simple burn tube, and instead of having a hole in the center, I have a disc in the center, and the gases will have to pass around like that. Hopefully the camera can pick that up. And I might try putting a little bit of fiberglass in the tube as well. I ended up using several layers of this finer fiberglass cloth, wrap that around the inside of the burn tube, and so now we are going to test this. Will it make any difference? Will it work? Probably not. Let's find out. Okay. I just came out to check on the heater. I wonder how it's doing. That's pretty cool. This is what is left of the fiberglass. Some of it is actually still fiberglass, a woven cloth, but most of it is actually melted into a clump of glass, which is quite brittle and sounds just like what it is, glass. I've had a few failed experiments. I don't think I even filmed this one. It had some fiberglass sitting in the bottom, an opening in the top, and some bicycle spokes that were holding in this baffle, and this fiberglass sitting in the vaporization area. And I think I might have filmed the cloud of smoke that was a result of that, but I didn't film any of that. This was one more failed attempt at keeping heat in the burn chamber. What I did is tried using some fiberglass, and also I modified a piece that I had used earlier. So I had made this part before to try to pick up heat from the center probe thing and bring it back in, and that didn't work. I tried that and fiberglass, and that didn't work either. So probably not a good idea to be wearing gloves while using a slip roll. It's a good way to get your fingers pinched. Okay, there we go. Perfect fit. Okay. So here is the idea. Here is the plan. I've got this piece of copper, and it is going to act as a heating tray for the oil that is coming into the vaporization chamber. These little fingers are going to go through the hole in the reduction ring. I'm going to give them a little squeeze to get in there. They will stick out into the burn area. And the idea is they will capture some of the heat, and because they are connected to the piece where the oil will sit in, hopefully this will get hot and burn off or flash off some of that oil. So the way that I have this set up as of now, this is going to sit, the edge of this will sit right against where the fuel comes out. So the fuel comes in here and it runs down inside, and I will make it so that it goes right onto there. We are at 268 Celsius, 267, 268 Celsius, 3.4 Hertz, and a fan speed of 4,400 RPM. So I'm going to just go to 45 this time. I've removed the burn chamber from the heater, and I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that it did not melt the copper. The bad news is that it does have quite a bit of buildup inside of there. Well, quite a bit relative to how much time it spent running. This is what it looks like inside. This is what it looks like on the copper plate. So it looks like it was actually working. It was heating up and burning stuff on this plate. I am about to perform a test that will make me look like an idiot, but the way that I came across it, well, at the same time, it probably makes me look like an idiot as well. So I will give credit to one of my viewers, but first I will tell you how this actually came about. It came about in two ways, but the reason why I'm doing it is because every time I take my heater down off of the shelf, it has a substantial, every time I take my heater down off of the shelf, it has a bunch of diesel in the fuel lines. I disconnect the fuel line where it goes into the first preheater, so into the fuel heater. And I now have 2 of them, so there's a bunch of diesel in there, and it either runs into the chamber when I'm moving it around, or it dumps on my floor or on me. Anyway, so instead of doing that, I was up on the shelf, and the line was sitting on top, and I was like, well, if I pull the line off the top, it'll siphon down in, and it will burn while the heater is still running. So I pulled the line off, and sure enough, some of it siphoned down in, and it started burning, and it was actually picking up temperature as it was shutting down, which isn't terribly uncommon. But I could tell that the fuel was actually feeding in. So I clean off the end of the pipe with my fingers, and I decide to actually blow into the pipe. The fuel went in, it burnt fairly well, the temperature went up, and then as the fuel ran out of the line and just my breath started going in, I could hear the flame increase dramatically. So that leads to the test I'm doing. I'm actually going to feed some air in with the fuel. I'm going to do it with a pressure regulator and do it at fairly small volume, and we're going to see what happens. I had actually mentioned the viewer in another video, the one titled Viewer Suggestions or something like that. And I had explained why I didn't think that feeding air into your heater with an air compressor was a good idea. You'd either have to do high volume, low pressure, or low volume, high pressure. Based on what I just did, I think that there could be something to this. This could help the fuel atomize enough so that it actually works. Wow, that was a whole lot of carbon, a whole lot of oil, a whole lot of mess, a whole lot of cutting, a whole lot of I hope this works this time. And yeah, we seem to have discovered that it's harder to get heat into that area of the burn chamber than it might first seem, and I kind of got lucky on some of my early experiments. And even when we do get a bunch of heat to stay in that area of the chamber, it still creates a bunch of ash, and that ash then leads to some problems. So, like you guys just saw in those last clips, thanks to Lance for pointing me in this direction, I have started my testing on feeding some air in with the oil feed, and it's showing some very promising results. A bunch of you guys probably saw my YouTube shorts where I was doing some testing with this and got some ridiculously high temperatures. Pretty soon we are going to be into the new burn chamber head. I am really excited about that. I hope you guys are as well. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Eventually, I will be able to start feeding air in with the fuel from this point, and it will hopefully atomize better as it goes into the chamber. So I have the fuel line going in here. It goes through one preheater out to here. Then it goes in through the second preheater and into the bottom here.